Okay, so Clifford the Big Red Dog, live action version of the popular book series by Norman Bridwell. Emily, who is being looked after by her homeless, wastrel uncle Casey, played by Jack Whitehall. She wants a dog. Her mum is away working, I think, in Chicago, wouldn't allow it. But then they meet Mr. Bridwell, played by John Cleese, who introduces her to a red puppy.
This is it?
There's no animals in here.
That's right. You said you weren't looking for a pet.
And we're not.
So, you won't be interested in him.
My goodness. You're just the cutest thing I've ever seen. Look at you. Oh, he's so cute and so tiny.
And so red.
I love that he's red. How did he get that way?
I don't know. I think he's lost his family, so he's a little confused.
Poor guy. I'll be your family.
No, you will not.
Please, Uncle Casey. He's so tiny, he wouldn't bother anyone. Mr. Bridwell, how big is he gonna get?
Well, that depends, doesn't it?
On what?
On how much you love him.
Darby Camp, Jack Whitehall, and John Cleese.
I love it. Sounds like a hit.
Bridwell, obviously named after the creator of Clifford the Big Red Dog. So, he says he can't have it. Dog sneaks into the bag, comes out the bag. Oh, it's okay, it's just only a tiny little dog. You know, puts her arm around it, wakes up in the morning. Clifford is now the size of the room. I mean, like the size of a house.
That'll be the big red dog then.
That will be the big red dog. And so the rest of the film is, what do we do? Now we have a big red dog that is the size of the house. So the kid and the uncle are trying to, deal with having a giant dog. They're not allowed to have pets in the house. And they haven't just got a pet, they've got a pet that's the size of the house. They take, they go out into the world, whether intentionally or unintentionally, and then the dog runs amok in the park. Have you ever seen people in these plastic balls? A huge, big, like inflatable ball, and you get inside it, right? Yeah,
I have seen them.
Okay,
usually at festivals and things like that.
Well, for some reason there are these around, and the dog sees them. And then meanwhile, there is an evil company which have been trying to breed bigger animals for food, but haven't been succeeding. Who see Clifford, Big Red Dog, on TV and on WhatsApp and YouTube and all the other things that you can probably get in touch with us through, and try to claim him as their invention. So. Here's my problems, and I know that these are probably not. Okay, firstly, Clifford is too big for this story to work. Okay, in a live-action film, Clifford is too big. So you see Clifford in the room. Clifford is he's not just going to mess the room up. He's going to destroy the room. Okay, it's a dog that's that big. That's the end of that.
How big should he have been? A bit small.
Half the size that Clifford is. So but this is often the case with, because you've got CGI big, you make that. Now, if you're doing drawings of big red dogs, that's one thing, that's fine. But if what you're doing is you realise the big red dog digitally in the real world, and the big red dog is pretty much the size of the room, you go, okay, well, I don't believe in any of this now, because now I know. It's a film. So first problem is the big red dog is too big.
And it's red.
And it's not being red is not a problem. Second thing is that what you're losing is the kind of charm of the source by replacing it with kind of romping big red CG dog action, as opposed to the kind of sentimental. I mean, the film may tell you that what it's about is about something becomes bigger the more you love it. It may have, John Cleese doing those slightly sanctimonious speeches about that. It's not really about that. It's about the kind of, on-screen, in the same way that Peter Rabbit wasn't Peter Rabbit. I mean, they might as well have called Peter Rabbit Irritating Rabbit. We said they could just call this Big Dog. I mean, you don't need to call it Clifford. And the third thing is that there is the thing about, okay, so the character who gives them the dog, knowing full well that it will become that big, and then is completely unhelpful in a really, and anyway, so from a very adult perspective, I was going, okay, this doesn't really make much sense, and I don't really get it, and it doesn't have the charm of the source, and so it's entirely possible that a young audience will just look at a big red CG dog chasing around, and Jack Whitehall making jokes about, I wonder what the size of its poo is, and that may be enough to distract for a brief period of time, but it's not going to be a Christmas staple. It's not going to be a movie that's got legs. Albeit the central character, unlike its central character, the movie does not have legs.